On today's show, you may remember her as the protegette from ECW. Please welcome the original ECW, Angel Orsini.
Hey, how you doing? It's great to be here on the Mike Rand Show.
Hey, everybody, welcome to the Mike Rand Show. And today's special guest, you may remember her as the protegette from ECW. She is the original one, Angel Orsini. Hey, Angel, how are you?
How you doing? I'm doing, taking care of business, just like always.
Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. The first question I want to ask you is probably one of the first questions I always have to ask when I have a wrestler on here, but it's crucial to the interview, is I want to know how you got started in wrestling.
Oh, so I have a unique story. I was a martial artist, black belt, taekwondo teacher. I went from being an amateur champion fighter in Olympic style taekwondo to I had a choice to either go try out with the US Olympic team and try to make the team, or go train with Bart Vale and learn this thing called shoot fighting. And I was like, I want to go do UFC fighting. And so that's what I did. I got very good and I went to Japan and I fought on this amazing highest wars. And I met Reggie Bennett, because on this highest queendom highest wars was female boxing, kickboxing, and pro wrestling. They had All Japan, New Japan, all women. And I met Reggie Bennett. And Reggie Bennett came and hung out with me in my suite, and she just chewed my ear off about pro wrestling. She's like, pro wrestling, pro wrestling, pro wrestling, pro wrestling. And I was like, yeah, but I'm a fighter. Yeah, but and she wore me down. And then, but I did watch her match and some of the other matches, and I was like, wow, these girls, they're solid. I like this style. It was very good, Japanese style pro wrestling is strong style. And so when I came back from Japan, I said, I need to try this pro wrestling stuff out. And I found Liz Chase, who was a very well-known American wrestler in Japan. And she trained me. And as history, I fell in love with pro wrestling. It became like more like breathing air to me, that I needed it more than martial arts.
Now, did you watch wrestling at all growing up, or was this like your first exposure to wrestling?
I watched it a little bit here and there, but I was not really a TV kid. I was a maniac. I did gymnastics, basketball, softball, I riding my bicycle. I did not want to be inside. So I really didn't watch TV that much.
So you were very athletic growing up.
Yes, I competed in gymnastics from either second or third grade, and I played on baseball teams. So I had some sport of some kind that I was involved with, always, up until probably like sophomore year of high school.
Now, what differences? So you said that you did some martial arts before you did wrestling. So
Yes,
what
definitely.
what were any differences that you noticed from your training and background in martial arts that maybe you could have used in wrestling, or that you were able to apply? Was there anything that went hand in hand, or anything that, was a little bit different for you?
I mean, I think the only thing that was different was that you get to be a character in pro wrestling. So you kind of build that into your repertoire. But actually, my style of pro wrestling is very much like strong style. So it incorporates everything in basically shoot wrestling and martial arts is in my matches. It just depends on whether I'm a villain or a face onto whether how much of that I implement in my matches. So if I'm the villain, of course I'm gonna cheat and cut corners, more than if I'm the hero, then I'm using my martial arts more.
Now, what do you like playing more, the hero or the villain?
I love being bad. It's just so much fun.
Now, who were some of the people that trained you in the beginning, like you were mentioning before?
So Liz Chase trained me. She was a heel. She actually toured with Wendy Richter and was hired by Vince Sr., but she had a really great career in Japan. Um, my first match was with China. And China helped finish my last 6 weeks of training. So being around a heel like her, that was great. And then Luna Vachon broke me in. So that's another amazing heel. And she was my second match. And I wrestled her, on and off in my career. And she was one of my dear friends, even before wrestling. We lived in the same neighborhood. So we were good friends. So I would say those are my main influences. And Leilani Kai was another influence because she trained Liz and her and Liz were very close. Yeah, I got to wrestle Leilani and got to hang out with her, road stories with her. I love her. So,
What are your memories of that first match with China, and where did it take place?
so that was at Biketoberfest at the Iron Horse Saloon in Ormond Beach, Florida, which is right neighboring Daytona Beach. It's consider a lot of people say it's Daytona, but being a Florida girl, I know the difference. So I would say like the thousands of bikers, that was memorable. And Joni, she was amazing, amazing talent. And being in the ring with her and just listening to her. But I'll tell you what, when she overhead pressed me, I was like, wow, I'm really far up here. It's gonna be a long way down. And it was boom. I'll never forget that feeling being that high up there. And but it was great. Overall experience. I couldn't ask for a better experience. It's like a 12 to 17-minute match. It was a long match. It was awesome.
And that was before she was in WWE, correct? Which at the
Actually, yes, it was just before. And she had some other things scheduled to do, and she was supposed to stay longer, but she got the call and had to leave. I was really happy for her. We stayed in touch for a little while, but it wasn't like it is now. People don't understand. In 1999, we didn't have cell phones that sent emails, and there was no Facebook, Messenger, DMs of any kind. You actually had to write a letter or have a phone call. And yeah, that was hard. It was hard to stay in touch.
Yep. I mean, if the phone rang and you weren't home, you missed the call. There was no voicemail, answering machines. None of that was invented yet.
No, I had a beeper that you could
Yes,
leave
the
a
beeper.
message.
I had a beeper at one point too.
It was as close as I get. No, I would say like I think I had a cell phone in 2000
Yeah, around then is when it sort of became popular.
and affordable.
Yeah. And remember, they had those big ones too at one point too, the really big ones.
Like Paul had those satellite phones.
What were some of the main differences that you saw when you had toured Japan and learned in Japan? Were there any differences in the style of wrestling from over there and over here that you noticed?
Oh yeah, definitely. Um, their style, strong style is more like it's not fake, right? Like they really hit each other and everything that they do is realistic, like what you would do in a real fight or and at the time over here in America, the style was much more theatrical, except for ECW boy. And that's when I was like, ding. I was like, I gotta go there. That's where I belong.
Yep. So now we're going to talk about ECW in a little bit, but before ECW, you did do some other promotions, correct?
Yeah.
Because I was going to say, did you do a promotion? Did Fabulous Moolah have a promotion that you were in, or
Um,
school?
I didn't go to her school, but I did work for her in Las Vegas. I got to be a part, I wrestled Psycho Sybil, and she blew her knee out and we couldn't finish our match. So Mula was so gracious that she let me get into the Royal Rumble part of it, or I don't know what they booked it as, but it was, the main event. I got to get in there with like Mae Weston, I think her name was, and these other amazing, iconic lady wrestlers that were, I was just like, I remember being in there and I had somebody in a hold and I was just looking around and watching what everybody else is doing. And I was like, oh yeah, I got to do something, because I just started like becoming a spectator instead of being a participant, because I was just like, wow, it's so amazing to be here right now. This is just incredible.
Now, did you win any titles before you went to ECW in other promotions? And can you talk
Oh,
about that?
yeah, I would love to. So I was wrestling like everywhere in Florida. I was all over the place. I was Sunshine Wrestling Federation, women's champion, Florida Championship Wrestling, women's champion, Hot TV Wrestling, which was um, run by oh my God, I can't remember his name right now. It'll come back to me later. He used to work for Eddie Mansfield, Ronnie Galetti, Nasty Ronnie, and he was a part of a musician. He was a musician, a man called Nasty Savage, started his own company, had his own biker bar, biker TV show, started his own wrestling company because it went perfectly with being a biker club. And I remember wrestling Luna Vachon in that biker club, and Luna cut me open. Her and Dave had jumped on me, and those bikers were so mad. They started a riot. They had the sheriff's department had to come in and gas the place to get them to leave. They were so mad. Oh, it was great. Wrestling in Florida then was so awesome. I loved it. You can't, go back, but that was a really, really good time for wrestling.
And another thing that you were involved in as well while you were wrestling is you did some bodybuilding, correct?
Yes.
So can you talk to us about your bodybuilding career?
So, well, I just competed because I was really jacked. I for martial arts, there was a point in time where I was a head instructor. And so I would have people come in, and being the head instructor, there would be large men and they would be like, well, why am I going to pay you to teach me martial arts? I can kick your ass. And I was like, okay, then here, put on this gear and kick my butt. and chop, 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 smack them in the head, kick them in the head. And they would be like, okay, I'll pay you the money. You teach me how not to get kicked in the head. I was like, okay. um, so I felt like I had to build myself up to be able to do that. So I was benching like 225, and I never did any drugs. I didn't have money for stupid things that I didn't need. I was really very poor. I was riding a motorcycle, not a cool Harley Davidson, but just a Honda, because that's all I could afford. And I knew how to fix it when it broke. So that's why I had it. I was living on like, $30 a week to eat on and be a bodybuilder and trying to build muscle. So everybody would always comment like, you should be competing. So I was like, you know what, okay, I'll try, I'll see if I can diet down. And but I came in second place both times I competed, and I got beat by people who were definitely doing steroids. And I was like, I'm never going to do that. So I might as well just focus on martial arts and wrestling and forget about that, because, I'm
Yep,
not willing to do that,
of course not. But one thing that you did get to do, which I didn't know in doing my research, is did you get to appear on one of my favorite talk shows, the Jenny Jones show, in bodybuilding? Talk to me
So
about that.
it was a lot of fun. It wasn't really about bodybuilding. It was the name of that, the theme of it was women who have a job that people think it's a man's job, something like that. I forget it was titled, but they had a female football player, they had a female boxer, and I was the female wrestler. Yeah, it was a great show. I had so much fun. And
Yeah, the Jenny Jones show was always fun to watch.
she was so good to everybody. So sweet, kind, classy, really nice. It was a very great experience for me. I think I came back on a second show, but it wasn't like the same. It was more like men who are abusive to women, and I don't know really what we were doing. We were supposed to like stick up for the women and not let them get bullied. And one guy pushed me and I was gonna kill him. And they had to like take me backstage because I was infuriated. I wasn't as mellow a chick as I am now. So I had I was like, I'm just not, like, I was afraid to really interact after that, because it's like, I'm just gonna punch somebody in the face and probably go to jail in Chicago. Not a good idea.
Yes, I always loved, she always had a smile on her face. I think that's part of why I always smile on this show, because Jenny Jones always smiled, and it made it very interesting, the show.
Everybody was like that on the show, though. All of her staff, everybody was all smiles, and it was all very pleasant and very well organized.
And by chance, were you on your episodes, did you have Rude Jude on any of those episodes? You remember Rude Jude?
I remember, but no,
He wasn't on your episode. Okay. He was
no.
another funny character that popped up every once in a while on the Jenny Jones show. Now, another person, you did train Molly Holly, correct?
Yes, she was my first student I ever mentored. And I knew as soon as I wrestled with her one time, I was like, I started talking to her. I just knew she was going to make it. Um, I don't know what it is, but I can just tell there's an it thing that's kind of a little indiscernible, but whatever it is required to make it in this business. And if you have it, I know it. I recognize it immediately. And I knew it when I met Joni. I knew that she was going to make it. She had it. I knew it when I met Molly Holly, Nora. She had it and she was going to make it. I knew it about Mickey James. and I knew it about Serena Deeb, Mercedes Martinez, Amber O'Neill. There was no doubt in my mind when I met those women that they had that it factor.
And now you eventually wound up in ECW, which was run by Paul Heyman. Now, Paul Heyman, we all know today as the manager of Roman Reigns in WWE, but he actually had his own promotion back in the day before WWE for people who weren't born and didn't know about that. So can you tell us a little bit about that and how you wound up in his promotion?
Well, I started wrestling guys, and I had like a whole bunch of guys that were training at the dojo, and then they were like, I wouldn't mind to wrestle you on a show. You're really, really good, and you actually give me good match compared to some of the other guys that I get stuck wrestling on indie shows. So it was cool that I had such good brothers that were willing to work with me. And so Teddy Long and Rocky Bulwer, Rocky King, had a federation in Atlanta Championship Wrestling, and they would book me to wrestle the guys there, and I ended up in hardcore matches, believe it or not, and I became the hardcore champion. And some of those matches, I got them filmed, and then I handed those tapes into WWE, WCW, ECW, try to get a job. With WWE, we're like, you really need to go to ECW. And I was like, well, whatever. I want to go there anyway. And then so Tommy Dreamer is like, I saw your tape and I have a great idea. I'd love to use you for, and but you still need to try out. And so I came, I had my tryout, and they were like, you're hired. And it was like, what? And they told me they had this idea for the Project, and this storyline to go into doing a tag team tournament, and how I would be, and have a role in that. And I was very excited about that. I got to work with Simon Diamond and Johnny Swinger. Pat Kinney, Simon Diamond is amazing talent to work with, and how, just being there and listening to these guys coach us, agent us. I mean, I learned so much from him, Danny Doring, Tommy Dreamer, New Jack, Balls Mahoney, and yes, Paul Heyman. Paul is a genius, and so amazing, his mind. It just blew me away. Like, I never had anything to say. I would just like be like a sponge, soaking it all up as much as I could possibly take in. He remember matches that he from like 1980, and he wasn't even in that match, and he could tell you what the finish was, what the story was, why it went down that way. It was just like, why would you ever open your mouth and say a word? I want you to keep speaking these words of life to me about the wisdom of wrestling, and hence here he is in WWE, the wise man. Yes, is who he is. He's brilliant.
And now at that time, so when ECW was on, how many hours of television did they produce a week?
That's a good question. I don't know that I really paid attention to what everybody was doing, because we go there like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, have matches, and then we would do all our promos after. And sometimes it would be like 1 a.m, and I'm still like, what time is it? Oh my God, we didn't even do our promo yet. When are we gonna do it? And it was like exhausting, because you're there. A lot of people don't know, but you have to get there at like 3 p.m. So when I was first starting with them, I was actually part of the ring crew, and I would help put things together, like the canvas on and the ring apron. And then we would work out, and we would have like our training where somebody would Sandman, New Jack, Balls, Lance Storm, Jason Knight, somebody would run it and say, okay, this is what you guys are going to do. And we would literally have wrestling school first. And then there were always people that wanted to try out. So you got to get in there and have a match with somebody and know this is their tryout match. And I was treated like any of the guys. So I was the guy. And so I was like, all right, I'm going to give this guy the best match I can possibly do for him so he can get a job. Because I'm certainly don't want to be the reason why he didn't get a job if he deserves it, right? So, yeah, it was very interesting. It was very exhausting. After that, you take a shower, you get ready for TV to start. You have production meeting, you know what you're involved in, and then you have to be a part of these matches. And these matches that I was in were very complicated because there was an ECW style, right? You have a match that really goes into another match. There were a lot of times you didn't have like a finish. There was, or you had these guys were originally in a match, something happens, they go outside, and then you guys come running in, and then one of you gets pinned, and you weren't even in the original match, but nobody paid attention. They just wanted, they wanted the people to win that they wanted to win, and the people to lose that they want to lose. They don't care how it happened, which was really so much fun and creative. And so it was an exhausting day. You're done. You're finally done with the show. And then, it's 11 o'clock at night, and now we have to all do our promos. So, and then you leave and go to your hotel, take another shower, maybe, or something.
So it was not broadcast live then, ECW, correct?
Just the pay-per-views were.
Okay. So they put the episodes together in front of the live audiences and everything. So
yeah, I mean, so we would do the live audiences and they edit it together how it was going to work out. So I don't actually know how many shows they would get every weekend out of it, but
how many,
and then
at that time, because now so much has changed in the landscape with women wrestlers. At that time, how many women wrestlers did you have on the roster? And were you all fighting for airtime? Was it like one match a week that you guys got to do? Because just like now, you see how they've progressed over time where women are now main eventing and having several matches throughout the night, which is really great to see.
Unfortunately, it really was only me and Jazz that were the girl wrestlers. Everybody else was more like a valet manager. So the type of match that they would have would be like what you would call a gimmick match, where it was more like bra panties or, something of that nature. They really only let Jazz and I interact a few times because they were actually trying to build it up into something. And my purpose on the show was really to be the tag partner of the prodigy Tom Marquez and to be the manager of Bill Wiles. And we were like a trio, so that I would wrestle like I was a part of the guys team, because the Prodigette story was that the prodigy was my brother and I was trying to be like my big brother. The annoying little sister that wants to hang out with you and all your friends and do everything that you want to do. So that was my character. So that's the way it was booked. I didn't really interact with Jazz. I think we only had 2 matches kind of. And I don't even know that we really had 2 matches. They were more like run-ins, or we started a match and it went into something else and it didn't finish, typical ECW style, like tease, what you would call a tease.
So even though you weren't on camera a lot with Jazz, did you have some interaction with her backstage and get to know her as a person? And what did you learn from her?
So I had met Jazz in 1998 when she first got there. So I have been trying to get a job at ECW before. I knew Jason Knight, and so whenever they would come to Florida, I would try to go. Sometimes it didn't work out because I was on tours around the world, really trying to be a pro and make this my full-time job. So Jazz became one of my best friends. We were friends, before, and I would always hang out with her and Jason and her husband Rodney when he was with her on the road. But then when I got hired there, we were like two peas in a pod because we're the only girls. And we would always be in travel group together. And she's still one of my dearest friends today. I really love her. She is a great human being. And because of my fondness for her, and also I have this deep respect for her because she always stayed true to who she was and is. And she never let her success or anything change her. And that's admirable because I've seen a lot of people change. There are very few people that go there, go to the big show, get that level, and come back and they're the same. And she's one of the truly great humans that she went there, experienced all of that, and she is just, she'd give you the shirt off her back. She is like one of the best, most generous, kind people I know on this planet. And I would do anything for her. She is truly like my best friend in wrestling.
And what was life on the road like? And what kind of sacrifices did you have to make when you were on the road?
I mean, I sacrificed everything. Every relationship I had failed because of pro wrestling, because most men don't want their girlfriend to have to be in hotel rooms with guys. And sometimes, that's just the way it work out because we're so poor, we're trying to make it. And that's just, I'm not sharing a bed with a dude, but it might work out that I might have to be a roomie with a guy, because of Jazz there with her husband. Privacy, please. So, I'm an Italian woman. I was raised like old school Italian, and having your own family and all of that was like in my soul. And I sacrificed that for my career because I felt like women needed to see women like me in wrestling matches, not just Playboy model looking girls, which is, it's fine. And I'm not dissing those girls that look like that, but there was no diversity back then. And that's why I felt like it was so important for Jazz to be there then, because there wasn't enough women of color in the business, and everybody had to have blonde hair and big huge boobs and look like a Playboy model. And I really that was very disconcerting for me because women in real life don't all look like that. And I don't think it's fair representation. I believe that women need to see other women who they can identify with, because that's part of what we're doing. We have all these role models for guys to have, but we don't have any for women. Now it's the way it should have been 15 years ago, 20 years ago. It could have been that way, even longer than that. But the people that were in charge, they wanted to do what they could count on for marketing instead of, being innovative and being a leader like that and setting a new precedent. They just all fell into that same trap of continuing this, standard. So I've been fighting and stayed in wrestling to expand that as much as I could and keep fighting for that spot and keep hopeful that we would do such a good job and impress everybody and everybody be into it so much, what we did, because we, gave everything. I broke my bones. I shattered my foot in a match, and I still kept going. And I have 10 screws and 2 rods. It's 6.5 hours surgery to put my foot back together, just so that I could heal up and get back in the ring again and do it again and do it more. Yeah.
What was the most important thing you've learned from your time at ECW? And also, what was the best advice, whether it was given to you by Paul Heyman or another wrestler? Did anybody give you any advice that just kind of stuck with you over the years?
Yes. So I would say the greatest thing that I learned in ECW was psychology. And that I learned from just being around them putting together the matches and listening to how everything had to go together to have it all make sense. And the best advice I ever got was actually from Kevin Nash. And I was really just brand new in this business. And I met him at this bar in Atlanta where all the WCW guys would go. My boyfriend was the bartender, so I would always, stop in every once in a while. And being that he, been through so much, I was really struggling with where am I going to go and what are my choices going to be. And he gave me such great advice. And he really sat there and talked to me, and it made such an impact on me. It changed my life forever. So he told me, no matter what you do, whether it's wrestling, fighting, whatever you do, always give all that you got to it. And always, dial in, focus in, be there, and give it all that you have. Sometimes you're going to do great and sometimes you're not, and you're going to make mistakes. But if you know that you gave your best, you should give yourself that. And he goes, and you should really do that in everything that you do in life. Never give up, because you'll regret that. And he said, you might not win every time, but if you never give up, you can have that hope that you're gonna reach your dream. And it was so powerful because he gave me this advice when he was in WCW still. And I remember after him talking to me for a while, he told me the story about how he had to rehab his knee, not once, but twice, right? And how all that road, the roller coaster of that. And then after that, it was very long that he ended up being Diesel in WWE. So that advice that he gave lit up in me when I saw that he made this huge impact, right? And he did so great. His dreams came true. After ECW, I was in a really bad car accident. I got T-boned by somebody, hit me in my driver's side of my door. My whole side of my body on that side was paralyzed. I had to be taken out of the car by a fireman. And it was horrible. They told me I'd be lucky if I could walk and run again like a normal person. And I was crying. I didn't even have a place to put me. I was on a gurney crying in a hallway in a hospital. And I'm looking up at the ceiling and just crying. And I'm just like, why would God do this to me? And then that clicked into my head, because I had talked about this with Kevin Nash. And we had talked this exact, why would God do? Well, God didn't bring you this far just to bring you this far. And the rest of the conversation clicked in about how painful his recovery was and his rehab just to walk again. And I was like, I believe if God did it for him, God will do it for me, and I will wrestle again. And I said, and just like him, my second half of my career is going to be better than my first half. And I did that. I went and I did my own rehab because I was poor and I had no other way to do it. And I was wrestling again about a year and a half later.
Yeah, that's really great advice. And I 100% agree. You always want to give, your best of everything that you do in anything in life, even no matter what the situation is. You want to represent yourself the best that you can.
Yeah.
And then after ECW, you did do some other promotions, one of them being WEW. So not WWE, WEW, which stands for Women's Extreme Wrestling. So can you tell us a little bit about working there and who'd you meet over there?
Oh, that was great. It was like ECW, but all girls. It was crazy. Um, but it was so much fun. And I got to be the veteran and help so many women who were just brand new. Oh man, I wrestled Mercedes Martinez, but I had already met her um when Jason Knight started his wrestling school up in Connecticut. She was his student first before she went over to AFA and started, I think, WXW or something. But so she was there, and Mickey James was there as Alexis Lurie, and Angel Williams, who was Angelina Love in Impact and Velvet Sky. I don't know. I don't think her name was Velvet Sky though in WEW. Forget what it was. And let's see, Simply Luscious. Oh my God. Amy Lee, Missy Sampson, Killer Weed, Killer Weed, or some, I don't know, crazy names they had for people. They had a girl called GIO. It was so bad, dude.
And now at some point too, you did work with Amber O'Neill. Where did you meet Amber?
Actually, I was Amber's second match. I think it was someplace in Georgia or one of the Carolinas. And Leilani had asked me to mentor her. So I just took her under my wing. And yes, Amber was Amber Holly, and right, I think in WEW. And we just became best friends. I mean, it was kindred spirits. I love that girl, I always love her. I love all my sisters. Like, I can't express to anybody, I'm so grateful that everybody, all the fans, really respect the girls and give them the love and honor that they deserve, because they're incredible people. And I'll cry when I think about it too much. But the sisterhood that we have, it's just, it's so special. The honor and the respect that we give each other is just a beautiful love. And I wish everybody in the world could treat each other like the way that we honor and respect each other. I think this world would be a different place. Because even though, we're out there with different gimmicks and characters, and some of us are villains and some of us are heroes, but at the end of the day, we're sacrificing our bodies for each other, and we have this sense of friendship and kinship that, because of our love for pro wrestling and our love of the craft of it and how dedicated we are, that we just, even if we don't agree with each other about anything else outside of wrestling, we still have that. And that is just such a powerful bond because of the level that we have to trust and respect each other because of how good we are. I just wish we could learn to carry that over into our communities across the country and across the world, because that would present a very different world.
Yep, I mean the wrestling community is so close knit. The wrestlers, the fans. I mean, it's great. Everybody, it's like we're one family. It doesn't matter if you're a wrestler or a fan. I love the interactions, obviously, with all the wrestlers that I've met and how they treat the fans and stuff like that. So it really is special to be a part of the wrestling community.
It is. It's like such a beautiful gift of life. It's so important to me to let everybody, express that to everybody, all the fans and the other wrestlers particularly. It's one of the reasons why I co-founded the Women's Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Yep, and we were just going to get into that in a little bit. So why don't we talk about it now? So tell us about the Women's Wrestling Hall of Fame. Now you have inducted some ladies already, correct? And there's going to be
Oh
more that are
yeah.
going to be inducted.
Oh yes. So I'm a co-founder. It's been in my heart to do something to honor the women that came before us and make it all possible. There's a lot of women that contributed so much to pro wrestling that don't get the recognition they deserve. And so it was one of the priorities for me in ensuring that changes and happens, because like the WWE, for example, and we all know how extraordinary Jazz is of a talent, and she didn't even get a doll or a poster or a t-shirt, and she was their champion 2 times. And it's ridiculous, and I just felt like, well, I'm not going to wait around for the WWE to figure out to honor these people. That's a travesty. China, she has to, not because she's a part of a faction. She deserves it because of who she was. And I don't care what anybody thinks about, how she ended up or whatever. She contributed something so priceless to women all over this world, just being her and making it. And though I know what it took for her to make it, and she made such a powerful impact on me that last 6 weeks. She would measure her food and have her food and have a timer and know when she had to eat, train, everything. And I was with her for 6 weeks doing this stuff. And I still to this day bring food with me to work, and it's all packed up and packaged, and I have it all timed out. So people don't understand that women are watching how not just these women, but how they're marketed and how they're treated. We need to honor them and recognize them, because women will relate that to how valuable they are in society. And every single woman is somebody's daughter, sister, niece, aunt, mother, stepmother. They are valuable and they matter and they are super important in this society. 51% of the population is women. They are policemen, and teachers, doctors, lawyers, judges, senators. We need to honor and respect women in every part of society. And yes, who we celebrate in wrestling matters, and that does matter. People are watching and paying attention. And so I had to be a part of the Women's Wrestling Hall of Fame to ensure that those women, it wouldn't be just the same women that have already been celebrated, it would be the women that really contributed that maybe didn't get the recognition they deserve. And the history of women's wrestling needs to be preserved, and people need to be educated about it. We need to know about Marva Scott and Babs Wingo and Ethel Johnson, that these African-American women were pro wrestlers during segregation, and the impact that they made in society, and the bravery that they and the courage that they had. I mean, we deserve to acknowledge that. and never forget it. Because if we don't forget where we came from, if we don't understand that for a woman like Mildred Burke to come out of an era, and even Mula, to come out of an era where women barely had the right to vote. You know, you don't even, women got beat up on the street for trying to protest not having the right to vote. And that was only 100 years ago. Like that, it's not been that long. We can't forget where we come from. So if my time in wrestling can be used for anything, I want it to be used for that.
Also getting honored in the Women's Wrestling Hall of Fame will be the Gorgeous Ladies of Wrestling, which was the very first televised TV show, which was all female cast. And I know Steve Blance and Jeannie Bisson, who played Hollywood, are going to accept on behalf. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, well, I know that some people would say you're ECW and you're honoring Glow. Yes, because Glow helped make women's wrestling mainstream, and not even just women's wrestling, but really wrestling, right? Because the only wrestling that was really on TV was, you know, Saturday morning. So they helped step it up and elevate wrestling, and definitely women's wrestling. And yes, we're honoring the cast and the producers, writers of the show, because they had this amazing vision, and they brought it to TV. I mean, it's an amazing accomplishment, especially for the time that they did it at. And it's very impressive, and all the characters are really so creative, and I enjoyed it. I mean, I've watched it. Yeah, I think that people who say anything negative are just jealous.
That's right. Now, what people don't know is that you and me actually were in a movie together. Also, Jeannie Bisson Hollywood, and it was called The Lollipop Gang, and it's going to be going out to film festivals. Can you talk to us a little bit about this? It's a mockumentary, correct?
Yes. Oh, it's gonna be fabulous. I'm so excited. It's gonna be released next year. It might be released the end of this year. I don't know, but definitely next year. And it is gonna be making its way through film festivals, and then it'll be in distribution, definitely. The Lollipop Gang, spelled Lollipop.
Yes, I was
And
going to
it is a
mention that. We got to
mockumentary.
mention the spelling because it's not spelled like the regular lollipop.
Right. And you know, it's a mockumentary about how people kind of think that they're in the mafia just because they're Italian, or maybe one day they knew somebody who was in the mafia, and then they act like everything they do is some mafia gang, and just, you know, playfully making fun of all of that. And a lot of really bad puns.
We had a lot of fun on that set. I've got some of the pictures posted on my social media as well. People can check out. We got you and me doing a little podcast on there as well in there. Lots
Yes.
of fun scenes. Jeannie Hollywood getting married. There was a wedding and a chapel scene as
Oh,
well, and a lot of craziness in that
a
movie.
strip bar. Let's see what else. Oh, I'm Shelly Nunchucks,
Yep.
and I think that I'm a martial art phenom, although I've never taken a martial arts class ever in my life. It was such a great character to play. It was so much fun. And then I have, of course, Christopher Nino is my brother in the film, and you know, that's pretty true to life. He's like a little brother to me, and so it was fun. getting to fight with him on screen instead of just behind the scenes.
And another thing you and Chris are a part of as well is the New England Music Hall of Fame. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, I co-founded the New England Music Hall of Fame with Christopher Anino, Pedroja Ona, and I did that because, music is so important to really like working out. I have to have my tunes, it gets me motivated, but it's also a great way to like change your mood. If you're sad, don't listen to sad songs, listen to happy songs, shift the energy, and so when I started meeting a lot of musicians, I realized that a lot of musicians end up kind of similar way to pro wrestlers, where they kind of made this huge contribution to to their art, and they have a great following and people love them, but they're like really or not as well off as you would imagine. And so the New England Music Hall of Fame, music is a little bit of a political, also kind of like how wrestling can be, so that some people who deserve a push don't get a push, but they contributed a lot and maybe they were a really amazing studio musician, but nobody gave them the recognition because they weren't like the front runner of a band, or they weren't just in one band but many bands. So the New England Music Hall of Fame honors people who don't get the recognition that they deserve for their contributions, and it's mostly relegated to people who contribute to the New England music scene. And so that was a lot of fun, and I helped get that started. I'm not actively involved in managing it. I should kind of point that out also about the Women's Wrestling Hall of Fame. Like, I helped get it started, but I'm not involved in managing it. I'm like a big time ambassador.
And
Spreading the news. I'm like a New England Music Hall of Fame evangelist.
and now guess what time it is? It is time to play the lightning round.
Yes, Lightning. I love Lightning.
Yes.
She's one of my favorite Glow girls.
So I'm gonna tell you two things and you tell me which one you prefer. Would you prefer an ice cream in a cone or in a cup?
In a cup.
Listen to your heart or listen to your mind?
A little both.
Rotary phone or flip phone?
Flip phone.
I know. And don't you love slamming it when you hang up on somebody, right? People don't understand. That was good to slam that phone.
It was satisfactory.
Yeah, I don't want to sit there in the rotary all day going like that. That's too much work. Jersey Shore or Jersey Shore family vacation?
Jersey Shore.
80s or 90s?
90s.
Yes, I agree. I love the 90s. Better button on the remote control, the rewind button or the fast forward button?
Rewind.
Crunchy peanut butter or smooth peanut butter?
Oh, that's a hard one. Sometimes I feel like crunchy and sometimes I feel like green.
Volleyball or badminton?
Volleyball. Spike it.
Which would you rather have in your house? A movie theater or a bowling alley?
Movie theater.
Would you rather swim with the dolphins or ride a wave on a surfboard?
Swim with the dolphins.
Simpsons or South Park?
Ooh, South Park.
And the final one. Yeah, I love Cartman and Kenny. Float like a butterfly or sting like a bee?
Float like a butterfly.
Thank you so much for joining us here today.
This has been really fun.
Can you tell everybody how they can contact you and find you on social media?
Oh yeah. I'm the Angel Orsini, Twitter, Facebook, Insta, TikTok, and my website is angelorsini.net. Think.
And we will put up all that at the end of the show as well for you guys to see, as well as the New England Music Hall of Fame, and as well as the Women's Wrestling Hall of Fame. I'll put up all those links for you guys as well. And follow me on everything too, on Instagram, Facebook. I'm official Mike Grand, at Mike Grand.com on Twitter, like the website mikegrand.com. And on YouTube, I'm the Mike Grand and at official Mike Grand. So a million different things. So follow both of us on social media and keep up with us. And do you have any upcoming appearances or anything that you'd like to promote? Anything that's coming up in the future that you want to tell everybody about?
Yes, I am wrestling at New Evolution Wrestling, Roselle Park, June 17th against La Rosa Negra, and it's for the Women's World Championship, and I'm taking that belt from her. I'm going big.
All right, we got to see that. She's gonna come back with a championship belt for us here. All
It's
right.
not my first time, and it won't be my last.
Thank you again for joining us here today. And thank you guys for watching. And we will talk to you all soon. Bye, everybody.